Hey everybody, it's Monday, August 17th. Tony Baccialupo here. We're doing the New York City's Q&A. We've got Sina and John here, hopefully a few other folks joining soon. And yeah, so let's just do a quick little check-in and see what we want to talk about. There's some other things that I'm interested in getting your thoughts on as far as some of the things I'm working on, but let's start with you. So we'll start with Sina and then with John. Sina, what's going on in your world?
Hello. Still working on all my construction rocks, and I'm getting a ton of stuff done. So I'm way good with my to done list. I'm really proud of that. I built a folding table last week just because I felt like it, and so I'm really proud of that one too. I'm still working on all the virtual co-working stuff that I'm still trying to figure out, and yeah, then as you saw, I got like hacked, or my credit card got hacked last week. So I'm still trying to get over that mess because I still receive like 500 spam mails per day on my Hunt Street account, what is not fun. So
That's
I'm working on all of that stuff to clean that up.
I'm so sorry.
I'm pretty sure it happened with one of the purchases we just did because of COVID, where you couldn't get the stuff where you usually get it, and you just got it from random websites because it I only got signed up for so much stuff because they wanted to have my credit card, and with getting like 500 emails in 20 minutes, that means you're not focused on your credit card. But I have it luckily set up via text message when there's something suspicious happening. So there wasn't a lot of damage done from that perspective, but it still is not good.
Yeah, still a huge headache. Yeah, sorry to
Oh
hear it.
yeah,
Yeah, I
it
guess we
happens.
could have a bit of a conversation about identity theft and just security type things today because we don't really talk much about that, and I feel like now as much as ever with everything being even more online than usual, it's kind of an important topic. Um, but yeah, and did you have any sense, Sina, of how they got in?
No, that's why we think it must have been like just a purchase. I don't do a ton of purchases of random sites. And so, but I did it a little bit during like when we tried to get reopened and ordering all the stuff. And so, I mean, it was definitely Hunt Street because they had my credit card with the email address linked to it. And they only send you all the spam to distract you from the fraud that they're trying to do. So, but I mean, my husband works in IT, so he was really angry with me. But I was like, what am I supposed to do when I need to purchase something? And he's like, you have a two-way authenticator, just doing it. And like, okay, I'm sorry. So
Yep,
yeah.
yep, that'll do it. So yeah, I think it's something that I have a lot of thoughts on, just having been in the like in the computer science world for a long time, and there's just so much that people don't know about how to deal with it, and there's just like it's so complicated and it's so easy to lose access, like to lose track of all the stuff that we've given ourselves access to, and
Oh, yeah.
it's a big thing. So to anybody who is tuning in on this, maybe after the fact, there's a website that I'm a big fan of that's scary, but also super helpful in terms of just helping us to understand how seriously we need to take things. It's called haveibeenpwned.com, and that's have I been, PWNED, which is hacker parlance for owned. And if you go in there and put in a email address that you use to log into accounts or that you have an account with, you can see which breaches that account has been perhaps a part of. So if somebody, essentially a lot of times what happens is you'll sign up for some third party site, maybe even a very innocent site, and then somebody breaches their site and they steal your password, and then they use your if you use the same password in other websites, that's how they get access. right? So just for example, I'm on the site now. I just popped in my email address, and there are 15 sites where that email address is potentially part of a breach. Um, there's almost 3,000 data breaches that apparently were released as a batch in which that email address was found. Animoto, which I used for generating like video clips. I don't even remember what Apollo is. Bitly, Canva, another collection. I don't even know what Cove is, but apparently they have my email address. So I used them for something. Discuss, like, a lot of things. Street Easy. I had no idea actually until I just checked today that most of these were compromised. Wattpad, which is like a shared document app. Like I used that, once for a few days, a year, years ago, and they have my email address. And if I use the same password for everything, then I'm in trouble. So I have, since I discovered this site, created a bit of a system for myself that helps to ensure that um, each password that I use is different from every other password without me forgetting my passwords. But I highly recommend you do what you can to secure your stuff. And also, while we're kind of on the topic of IT security, I'm curious what everybody does in terms of how they manage passwords with their team, how they document access to accounts, things like that. Um, and in particular, when it comes to delegating, because what I found, this is actually a whole conversation we can have, is, if I want somebody to have access to some of my accounts, um, who works for me, how do I give them access to some of it but not all of it, and how do I kind of divide that up? So we could talk a little bit about how I did it. We could talk about some of the other ways that other people do it, and I'm curious how you all do it. But we'll send that around the horn today. We'll definitely discuss it because we haven't discussed it much. In the meantime, we'll go to John and then Penny and just check in and then go from there. John, how are things going over in Neosho? You're still on mute, John. There you are.
That better?
Yep.
All right. Sorry about that. No, doing good. Got all kinds of projects going on. Just back on the whole hubbub, trying to get additional sites to work with. I dropped off some information to our local Chamber of Commerce to get them to purchase some additional furniture, as well as potentially use couple back offices and their training rooms and conference rooms into our network of users that can utilize the points that we're creating, point system we're creating, as well as right now, all of the members of the chamber get to utilize their facilities basically with no charge any time, as long as they're members. And some of the memberships have greatly used and abused that, and others haven't used it at all. So we're working with the chamber president to come up with a creative way to be able to utilize a point system to offer them use at both their location as well as our location. And then just trying to get that worked out. Got another co-working space in Springfield, Missouri, that's part of the university network. They have, I think, 18 locations. They're interested to see what we can get done with Neosho, because they'd like to have their members be able to use multiple sites as well. So been just lots of creative energy being used, and not a whole lot to show for it just yet, but we're moving forward.
So you've got the Chamber of Commerce on board, so to speak, with the idea of working together and having you help them manage the access to their space.
Correct.
Great.
Yes, with the physical point of access control, as well as scheduling, the scheduling system that we're putting together, and then points for remuneration. When somebody goes and rents space, then they'll tell us how many points they want, and we'll send them, direct deposit every couple of weeks on who uses the space. So
Very cool. Very cool. And what's kind of like the big blocker for you now? Like you said, you got a lot of different things you're working on. Is it Is there anything in
Just time.
particular that, yeah.
Just trying to be 5 people at once.
Yeah,
But
well, we
no,
know that.
fortunately, we don't. I mean, we're all of our automation projects are starting to come together. We're about ready to roll out the second generation of our website with the new app and get away from some of the stuff that we were doing. So the co-working space is filling back up. We had 23 full-time customers prior to COVID, and then after COVID, we dropped down to about 3. So I think we're back to, we had about 13 this morning. So starting to build back up. Our restaurant business is building back up. The city was able to, they allowed us to put some outdoor seating, which works great for both the restaurant as well as the co-working. So no complaints. Just like I say, need more, squeeze more out of the hours of the day.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your upbeat attitude about it. You're definitely maintaining a good spirit, and I think that's important. Cool. All right. Well, thanks, John, and maybe we can unearth some more in the course of this conversation. See where best our conversation could be useful to you. In the meantime, let's go to Penny. See how Penny's doing. Penny, how are things where you are? How was your session on Saturday?
Good. Yeah, the Saturday session was good. As you know, we're combining the kind of codivation with the two-hour work sprint. And it's good. And it really, yeah, people really are helping each other out a lot, which is, great. And then I'm slowly developing 2 programs. One's going to be helping people launch a private practice. The other is going to be hopefully having members of Thrive provide supervision to people who are becoming licensed. Which could be a whole program that's kind of underneath Thrive that actually, has some income for Thrive for sure. And then planning our 1-year party. So kind of being a little bit busy.
Gotcha. Very cool. All right, cool. Well, that's everybody. We're a small group today. Does anybody, we kind of brought up security. We can talk a little bit about that, but does anybody else have anything pressing that they want to focus on today? I will say that, we haven't done this as much in these calls, but if there's something specific that you might want to just walk us through and get feedback on, like a change to your website or a new policy you're developing or a new program, something like that, we could always set up a screen share and kind of walk through it together. So yeah, I guess I'm opening it up to conversation. We can start with security, but anything else anybody wants to talk about today?
I had a quick question on the site that was, I believe it was some sort of a shared learning experience. I want to say they were out of Houston or Austin, maybe.
Can you say more?
It was I'm trying to remember. It was on one of the calls either last week or week before last about, I guess it was a service that you could provide to your members to have classes or schoolwork done. People were using that site successfully. And I was just curious what the site was and if anybody had any feedback on it.
Yes, Jen knows about this. She signed up for it. I'm trying to remember because it has a funny name, what it's called. We'll see if I can find it. Does anybody else remember it?
Give me a sec. I have it. I forwarded it to a friend in Chicago.
I'm trying to frantically Google around for what it is, but it would be a hard thing to dig up. It's so annoying because it's I'm on their mailing list. I've been on their website. I don't remember what their brand is called.
Yeah, I couldn't find it. I mean, I did a Google search and couldn't really know what to.
I have the link stashed somewhere. I will say, so while we're poking around, I'll just tell you kind of in general, I think that in theory, I really like the idea of having a third-party service that provides access to materials that you shouldn't have to create yourself. That makes your membership more compelling. And I think that it's the main question that I have is it something that your members value enough that it's going to get them to sign up or stay signed up when they might otherwise not? And that's something that I think is kind of an open question, and it's part how you sell it. But I really do like the idea of being able to start with this program and then maybe use that as a way of selling access to virtual membership so that you have some more concrete value to offer. And it's just it's a matter of kind of how hard you want to push on that. But I think especially now with virtual memberships, if you really get to know that particular offering really well, and then you market it really well to your people, and then wrap it in your own offering of your own local community kind of structure, I think it could be a really powerful offering. And yeah, yeah, I would say that you could probably figure out a fair bit of this on your own too, but it might be worth making the investment to add the offerings that they're creating to really augment it. You just have to like really market it. I think the problem that I'm finding is that people have stuff to offer, but they haven't made a good, clear sense of the value proposition, and that's the thing that we're still trying to like nail down the language of. So like people are working from home. They want to feel like they are connected to something bigger than them that's more meaningful and more valuable, that can help them stay focused and not be lonely and talk about what's going on in their world and all of that stuff. Um, but how do we show them in really concrete ways uh, why membership in your program is going to help them and help them achieve those things, and that it's going to be worth real money to them. And I think it's very similar to the way that I would think of the way that a gym works for people who want to get in shape, except people understand that they want to get in shape, so they pay for a gym membership. I think what people don't yet understand is I want to get my professional life in shape or my work from home life in shape. I go to a co-working space. And that's kind of the language that we're still looking for the right hook. Yeah, I still
I
cannot
I
find it.
definitely agree. A third party is, something I want to try to take advantage of, but like to try to make sure that I'm offering things that are really adding value. And I just didn't know what their content, if anybody had gone through their content or knew anything, if anybody had used it successfully. So knew what
Yeah,
it was.
Jen is almost always on these calls, and she just happens to not be here today. So she'll, I'm sure, be able to tell you a lot more about it in the next week or two. Um,
Okay.
and I just texted her to ask if she can find the link for us. Cool. All right. What else we got? Who else has some questions or something that they are thinking of that they will need help
Well,
figuring
I mean,
out?
I guess might as well talk about, I made like a summertime special offer and didn't get any hits at all. I mean,
Okay.
one woman, when I followed up with one woman, she said, okay, she'd come see it. She's somebody I know who I'm kind of friendly with. And then she never has scheduled that. So I don't know, I put out the summertime special and I mean, nothing happened.
All right. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what you are like? How did you conceive of, like, why did you conceive of the summertime special, and how did you go about trying to promote it?
Well, yeah, I conceived of the summertime special just to try to put it on people's radar and see if somebody would want to transfer their existing private practice here.
Hmm.
And then offered you could get 1 month for free if you sign up for a minimum of 6 months. Because normally our contract just signs you up for 3 months, and people stay longer. But so come on board for 6 months. You get your first month for free. And promoting it, I mean, all I do is email, Tony. Like I mean, I guess we put it on our Facebook page, but I don't do a lot of social media. I know that's kind of an issue. Maybe I should kind of lean more into that, but it just seems to me like kind of a time suck, and it's not something that, it's not that it doesn't come easily to me, because I could do it. I just don't find times in my life to really be promoting things on social media. So I don't really have a social media presence except a little bit on Facebook.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So that's a fair topic to kind of dive into, because I think that we get down this path of saying, you know, newsletter is the number one way of reaching people, so we focus our energy there. And then social media is kind of this thing that everybody's putting effort into, so I should as well. Um, and I feel like so much of what I found works in terms of like impact to effort ratio, when we do any kind of an effort towards promotion, is to go the opposite direction of all of this stuff. Because, you know, the internet's a noisy place, and all of these forms of broadcast media, like email and social media, we're right up against everybody else on the planet that's trying to grab everyone's attention. And so I tend to be a guy who likes to zig when everybody else zags. Sometimes that's a problem, but sometimes it means I unearth something useful. And when it comes to validating a business idea, or a new program or a new promotion, it's especially useful to um, get somebody to validate it directly, to ask for their help. And I make this mistake continuously. I'm making this mistake right now with a bunch of things I'm doing, and I know that, and I'm trying to get work around it in terms of my head. But we need to know that we're not off base in terms of our assumptions, because if we're just creating something and putting it out there, odds are we made an assumption that is going to decrease the chances of people engaging the thing.
Okay, wait.
And
So are you saying that what I'm offering might not be something that people are even interested in, or I'm making some like faulty assumptions and I need to check first with certain people?
that's my theory, yeah. That essentially you put out a thing hoping that people would bite and nobody bit. So
Right.
something didn't work that you thought would work. And it's either, you know, that the product isn't right, or the pricing isn't right, or the landing page isn't right, or the email wasn't right, or the medium wasn't right, or whatever, right? Like we don't really know. And we could try to dig into the analytics of it to find out, you know, how many people opened the email, what percentage of people open the email, how many people click the email. And if you actually pull those numbers up, we could look at those and play with them, you know, because if nobody opened the email, then maybe that's one of the problems. If a lot of people opened the email but didn't click, then maybe the content was a problem. If a lot of people opened it and a lot of people clicked but nobody bought it, then maybe the landing page is the problem, right? Um, and honestly, in my mind, I think the more strategic way of approaching this and everything else is to say, how can I take the Google Doc draft version of this and run it past a few people who could give me their honest feedback? And that would be, you know, current members or advisors, you know, that kind of thing. Or this really sweet sliver of people that we should give a name to, um, which are like your friendly focus groupers. So like people who aren't your members, maybe never will be your members, but who you can still go to and trust for stuff like this, to say like, hey, you're not a customer. I don't expect you to be a customer, but can you pretend that you might be interested in being a customer and look at this thing and tell me what you think, you know, um, and validate it, you know, or even to say like, you know, maybe you go through your list of people you gave a tour to in the past who have expressed interest, who haven't signed up, or, you know, former members. You say, okay, who can I reach out to who represents the demographic of the person that I'm trying to reach? And just say, you know, hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing. I've drafted up some stuff. You know, what do you think? How does this match up with you and your world? And um, and then listen to the feedback you get. Not every bit of feedback is perfect in terms of the value that it provides you. Sometimes somebody will tell you something that you have to ignore, because it's very specific to them. But we're just trying to get a temperature check. And um, you know, what we want to try to get is for somebody to say, the dream is somebody to say, oh my God, this is great. I want it. Sign me up. Where do I buy it? Right. And for something like a summer promotion, maybe it's just something you throw out there, but if you're doing something more of a concerted effort towards marketing your membership going forward, you want to try to like really get a sense that you're hooking into a need that people have. And it might just be that, there's some language that's going to be resonant that we want to get from the people that we're talking to that will help us shape the thing that you're offering. So you say, okay, it's a summer discount, great, but what is the obvious pain point that somebody has that really speaks to like what's urgently important for them now, that's going to get them to say like, oh man, I want this summer discount and I need to join now because she's offering this thing that really aligns with where my head is at. And just for example, since we're now in the later side of mid-August, we're now looking at Labor Day. We're looking at back to school, whatever on earth that means now. But we're looking at a shift in terms of people's mindsets around work, and so it's actually a really interesting time to play with how is your life changing next month that you could need some help with, and what transitions could we help you with. Um, Historically, that's when I've done my big like membership drive kind of thing, done some kind of big social thing around, setting your intention for the new season coming up. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Do you think that there are some people that come to mind you could kind of reach out to and get their feedback on for like your next iteration?
Yeah, I think so. There's some people I could ask who are, like you said, members and some non-members. I mean, yeah, there's a woman who's never going to become a member, but she's, straightforward and she's got a business sense, because most of us therapists not too much business sense, but yeah, she consults with starting private practices and stuff like that. And we're friends. So she would help me out. Yeah. I think there's some people I can talk to.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, and I think, regardless of the specific offering, I think it's valuable to kind of identify people you can keep in touch with and engage with and just ask for their guidance on stuff, and use that to help validate you a little bit. I've got some stuff that I'm working on now that I probably will get a little self-conscious about. I might not want to share, but if I can share it privately with people I trust, such as you wonderful folks, maybe that will help encourage me a little bit. Um, and so we could actually try modeling this now because I'm kind of working on some stuff that I could get your feedback on. um, Around actually some of the stuff that's germane to what you're talking about, Penny, and in general. So I'm just going to use that as a segue actually, and ask for y'all's feedback, and we'll talk about it. But what I'm finding is that there is this prevailing attitude about where we're at now, that people still need belonging, people still need community, but doing it in person, we're getting mixed results in terms of safety level and comfort, in terms of who is good about getting together in person. And I imagine even then, social gatherings in person are still a big problem. We can do some outdoor stuff or whatever, but it's still a big concern. But then online, people are having trouble really believing in the online medium as a place for really meaningful, valuable connection. I feel like we went through a phase where everybody went on Zoom in April, everybody did a Zoom happy hour, everybody burned out on it, and then by the time we hit May, everybody had given up on it. But I don't know, and I say that with broad strokes, there's still plenty of people doing that kind of stuff, but I feel like we don't have a clear sense of a narrative around how do we build meaningful community right now? Like, how do we actually foster connection? And that question for a co-working space is that much more existentially challenging, because a lot of spaces are going to be relying upon membership being valuable in a way that might not be attached to space in order for them to be able to stay in business. And so it's an existential problem that we need to solve. And my theory, based on my extensive research into the subject matter, both long-term and over the recent months, is that it is possible to create community that is valuable enough and meaningful enough that people will pay to be a part of it, even if they can't meet up in person, if you design it correctly, if you have the right strategic approach to how you develop it. And so
Tony, you
what
just
I'm
froze.
can you hear me?
You froze for a second.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, now it's better. Yeah.
All right. If I cut out again, let me know.
Okay.
So what I'm working on is a system for describing what I'm finding works so that people will understand, hey, maybe I gave up on Zoom too early, or maybe Zoom isn't the right answer and there's other ways to foster belonging such that I can actually charge people membership to be a part of my thing and they'll pay for it and it'll be good. Um, and what I'm trying to figure out is the right language for that, because I'm trying to basically say like how to get people to pay you to be a part of your thing in a way that isn't overly reliant on in-person gathering and also doesn't use too much Zoom because people are burned out on it. But like that's a lot. So kind of looking for the right language for that, and I'm making some progress on it. So let me show you a couple things I've been working on. I would love to get your feedback on it. Um, and oh yeah, by the way, Jen texted me back. The website is the Unink. So I just pasted the link. TheUNINC.com. So yeah, I just had that sitting in my inbox there. So I'll make a note of that. All right, cool. So I have this document that I am working on, which I've just over the weekend decided I like the phrase meaningful connection design, because what I'm finding is that there's lots of events and gatherings that are happening, but they are by and large failing to foster a sense of meaningful connection. So, like, there's Zoom happy hours and people are talking and playing games, but I don't really want to hang out on Zoom to have a happy hour. That's just not the kind of engagement I want to have. But I do want to forge some kind of a meaningful conversation and connection with other people, and that I will show up for. So, I'm still trying to kind of hone in the language on this, but I think meaningful connection design is kind of close. AKA how to counter the dread of this crazy time, how to find meaningful connection when everything's crazy, AKA why your Zoom happy hour sucks and how to fix it. And so I think I might make this like an ebook and or a workshop. Um, and the basic structure of it is, first of all, acknowledge this is hard, but also there's tremendous opportunity. In part because it is hard, there's so many people that are so lonely, that are so desperate for some sense of meaningful connection, that if you crack it, there should be floodgates of people who are hungry for this thing. And so that's kind of the holy grail that I'm hoping for, is that good leaders like yourselves are able to get access to the stuff that they need that will help you to crack this thing. And then I go into the meaningful connection design process, which I literally made up as I created this document. But it's essentially this multi-part process where first we understand what your overarching purpose is, because that is kind of gives you the language, the resonant language that's going to really ring true to people. And so if it's, helping people to find belonging and not be lonely, there's really strong language there. Or if it's helping to support the local small businesses of your city, now's the time when supporting the local small business of your city is extremely important. So like really strong language that can be in there if you hone in on your purpose. And it's easy as a co-working space owner to forget that purpose and just try to rent people space, offer people access to space. And it just doesn't resonate in the way that it can if we lead with the mission, lead with purpose. And then understanding who your people are, your audience, what their needs are, and understanding that those needs have changed. They might not need an office like they did before, but they might need something else more than they did previously, and especially their constraints. So right now, and this is where I think a lot of us get in trouble, is in April, so many of us said, well, we used to do happy hour on Friday. We want to keep doing the happy hour. Let's just do happy hour on Friday, but over Zoom, because it's the easiest allegory, digital. But it doesn't account for the constraint we have of Zoom drains people. Zoom is something I'm already spending a lot of time on during my work day. And sharing drinks with friends over Zoom in the same way doesn't work the same way. So like I might be able to just have people in a room drinking some beers and have that be a positive experience. It's much harder for that to work over Zoom. Plus, people have kids at home and they're stuck in their houses, and there's all these reasons why working over Zoom just doesn't work as well. So, what if I set that as a constraint and then said, okay, I need my people are, freelancers and small business owners in my city. Their needs are to feel connected and be able to help each other with their business stuff and also their personal stuff. But I can't ask them to go on Zoom more than once a week at the most for anything, just because they've got so much going on. So how do we then achieve that? So what does success look like? Well, we're going to take all of this and kind of explain it. Success is my members are talking to each other. They feel like they're getting their needs met, that they're getting their problem solved, that they don't feel lonely, that somebody's helping them grow their business, and we're doing it in a way that doesn't require too much video. So great. Now, what can we do with that? How could we solve that? And then we're going to get into the specifics of that, and then let's test it out by reaching out to people, close the loop on validating the ideas, right? So that's kind of the basic structure of the process. And then in particular, when it comes to this ideation phase of what can we do, especially if we're not overemphasizing Zoom, what tools can we use? And so I just go into all the different tools we have at our disposal and the constraints of them. So face-to-face, but safe. When do we use Zoom? And how can we maximize the value of Zoom? How can we use the telephone, which I think is vastly underrated as a medium for connection, text messaging, chat, shared documents. We talked about the to-done list recently, and that was a really good illustration of what I'm trying to describe here. Physical mail, I think, is such an exciting territory for us to play with as well. And then these alternative technology platforms, which I'm just gonna skip to that right now because I think there's a lot there that I find very interesting. There's so many people playing with new kind of like digital gathering platforms. And I tend to not think of technology as a solution for things like this, but sometimes it's fun to just play around with new pieces of technology. And so, for example, there's a lot of similar platforms that do this now, where there's like a digital space you can walk around in with a little character, like a Zelda game. But then if you go sit at a table, then your camera pops on and you see the other people who are sitting at that table, right? So could that be a
That's
good way?
cool.
Yeah,
I think
right?
that's cool. I didn't know about that. Like I wondered about that when I've been using Zoom with family and trying to have Zoom parties and stuff. But yeah, in Zoom, you got to place people in a group and people can't just walk around. I love that idea.
Yeah, yeah. And so there's several kind of copycats of this idea and a few others. There's one that I'm really curious about called Cappuccino.fm. And it's basically like, I don't know how to describe it. You basically record like a 3-minute voice message each day, and then you get a batch of each person's voice messages each day that every morning you get like a little batch of updates from your like audio updates from your friends. Um, so like all kinds of like just interesting bits and bobs, and I think personally that a tool is only as good as the facilitation. So even if you use one of these neat tools, it's only going to work if you do a good job of making them, valuable for people. So people need to understand the value proposition of any, new platform. Anyway, so understanding the tools we have, and then being able to say, well, I want to be able to get people together in a meaningful way that doesn't require too much Zoom. What if I tried using one of these funky new platforms? What if I created a facilitated experience where I get people in a room, I get them talking to each other about their hopes and their dreams and their goals and whatever, and get them to feel like they're not alone in their process, and then give them some kind of a structured way to help each other. And then, hopefully that creates some sense of meaningful connection that really, really stands out from all the other, Zoom happy hours that nobody really wants to go to. To provide some value. So I just, dished out a few thousand words on this topic. I feel like this whole kind of like issue of like epidemic of loneliness was an issue before COVID, and we don't have to wait for the vaccine for it. I feel like there's some good language to be had there. Um, and yeah, so this is what I've been writing. And then I made kind of a lighter weight version of this, specifically around like making your next Zoom meeting better. What do you think? How do I make this something that somebody like you would be excited to download and read and use? I will also gladly welcome "this sucks" and "I'm not interested in it at all."
Well, you talk about things that are like meaningful connection, and it's something I talk about all the time too, Tony. So like I'm completely on board with that. But you could also just say, you know, have fun at your next party. Like have fun at your next party and get to know people more than you have in the past. Or anyway, I like meaningful connection, and I do think in those terms, but I'm not sure everybody really thinks in terms of, you know, meaningful connection. I think they're kind of just trying to have fun. And if you were able to help them have fun and develop more meaningful connections, then they wouldn't even understand why that fun was extra fun.
I appreciate that, Penny. I feel like the value proposition for meaningful connection isn't there yet. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get a better handle on, is how to explain to people what you're saying. You know, that there's an outcome that you want, and what I'm offering you will help you to get that outcome. Yeah.
And maybe the outcome is having fun, or maybe the outcome is, I mean, to me, I wrote down the word support because in everything you said, and like I said, I think about things in much the same way. But to me, the word support is relevant. Of course, I'm 55 years old and I work with a bunch of therapists, but like feeling like supported, so you don't feel like you're out there alone, because people really can, and that's where you started out this whole thing, right? People really can feel alone. So yeah, I guess I was thinking about it in terms of support and fun. And I think this would be fun for like another family thing. And the thing I would like about it, or like the one that you showed the pictures of the little people and you could walk into the different groups or whatever, is I get that some families are playing games, but games don't really make people closer. But going to different groups and talking with people has that potential to help make people closer. So I would be more interested in this for my next family thing than I would be in, because I keep wanting to download Jaxbox or whatever it's called. And I haven't played with it yet, but you know, we could download Jaxbox and I'll play it. But I'd be more interested in something where we could roam around and check in with each other.
Yeah, Jackbox is fun. I've probably had like my best experiences in terms of like non-facilitated gathering. Jackbox is good for that. It's just, you know, it's always kind of surface level, right? We're like
Right.
we could have fun playing Jackbox, but at the end of the day, we just had fun and we didn't really necessarily get to know each other better. I think it does play
Right.
a role because then you get like good inside jokes and things, and Jackbox does work really well for like getting people to laugh and share like new kinds of inside jokes with each other and stuff like that. Um, I just think it has to be an ingredient in a more meaningful meal. Um, yeah. All right, that's
Are there
helpful,
any of
Penny.
these
Thanks.
are there any of these connection platforms that even provide like questions? Because, you know, as therapists, we often use little decks of questions to talk with teenagers or whatever. And they're questions that make you think kind of more deeply. And some of the questions are more superficial, but some of them really do make you think more deeply.
Yeah, you know what? That is a really good point, and I think that these platforms should do more to support the people using the platforms becoming better organizers. You know, so like if I run one of these little online like digital community platforms, how am I going to stand out from all of the other platforms that are copying the same basic theory? And I think it comes down to if you can teach people how to be good facilitators so that they're not just, you know, making the same mistakes but on a different medium, and I think that makes a big difference. Um, Yeah, so there's this one site that does do some facilitated stuff. There is a cost. It's epicllama.com, and they have these different kinds of programs that they run. Um, and then they have like a higher end for teams kind of thing. But I believe this is the thing that, yeah, an epic online conversation party, Ice Jam. Um, and yeah, they really emphasize this idea of skipping the small talk. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, so um, I would
That's
also,
cool.
yeah, I mean, like the problem with stuff like this is you're probably going to be paying for it. But I think there's a lot of DIY stuff that you can do to achieve a lot of the same effect. Like finding good icebreaker questions, or even buying a physical deck is maybe a good start. Uh, like you could probably find an online icebreaker list and just pick out your favorites from that, or find a more formal set. Like Penny, you might probably already even have some of these, and then you could fire up an audio meeting, like right, it could be Zoom, but we could say um, host a Zoom meeting, but give everybody the phone number to dial in. And they have that cool, in the invite link, they have that one tap link, so it has the code coded into it, so that
Oh,
you
yeah.
just tap it on your phone and it already logs you in. You don't have to type
Yeah.
100 numbers. But then you could have people participate entirely over the phone, and have them use some of these discussion prompts to help. So yeah, I think. And by the way, the "We Are Not Really Strangers" is one of the ones that I find interesting, just because they they have like kind of provocative questions that you can play with. Um, yeah, the site's probably broken
Those
because
are
I'm
good
using.
questions too.
Yeah, yeah, these guys do a good job. Um, yeah, yeah, a good conversation starter really goes far. Like, there's so much you can do with just like even just one really good prompt. Um, and I'll say I don't know how much we've talked about scavenger hunts. I feel like we have, but that's probably my single greatest facilitation technique that I found over Zoom, specifically over Zoom, is um, is the scavenger hunt. And so the idea with that, just to tell you really quick, and this can like superpower one of your existing meetups to get people to really enjoy it and want to come back, is you take advantage of the fact that people are in their homes, and you offer a prompt and have people go run around their space and go find something that fits that prompt, and then they come back and then they show it
So
to the
like
screen.
velvet, something that's fuzzy or something that's velour
Something
or
that's
something
fuzzy, something that's
orange.
green, something orange. Yeah, exactly. Something small. But then you could very quickly pivot it into um, find me something meaningful. Find me something that tells me something about you. Find me something that you treasure, right? And if you ask somebody, go find me something that you treasure, they're going to go find something and just watch how much people melt and how much people become humans immediately. It's incredibly powerful. Um, and so that's kind of what I mean by kind of this facilitating meaningful connection prompt. And then you could take it to another level by saying, okay, maybe you do that scavenger hunt, and then right after that, you're going to break people out into one-on-one rooms to discuss in more specific detail the story behind that object and why it's important to you, and what lesson it has for you in terms of where you're going next in your life. Like something that could like generate really meaningful connection and conversation between two people. And then you give them 8 minutes, 10 minutes to, 4 or 5 minutes each to discuss, um, and then bring them back into the group and then ask, who just had, who just learned something interesting, or who has a really great story to tell. You just see the sense of camaraderie really grow. Um, so that's good stuff. I'll also mention that in this conversation is a important component around community of practice. So I think we have talked about this fairly recently, but the idea is that if you've just got a community of people that have all joined because they're all members for whatever reason that they have in common, like we all want co-working space, that gives you some implied shared context that gives people reason to care about each other, but it's not necessarily enough on its own. You could have a co-working space full of wonderful people that don't care about each other or have a reason to really support each other. But if you orient people around a shared goal, then there's an implied understanding that everybody here is here to work towards something together. And that specificity creates a lot of cultural norms that increases the quality of the connection and the bond between the people. And so just for example, one of my favorite examples of this online right now is Indie Hackers. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Indie Hackers, indiehackers.com. And it's basically people who are building their own independent online businesses. And the idea with it is, okay, this could become a problem because you've got a community of people that are all in their, acting in their self-interest, and people acting in their self-interest might, start to spam the group or whatever. But what you find is that these people are all kind of working together to learn how to get better at the same kind of stuff at the same time. And so, for example, here's a group, landing page feedback. And so in this group, there are people who are asking for feedback on stuff, and other people in the group who are learning how to get better at that thing. And then they're giving feedback. And along the way, they're also kind of establishing themselves as people who are, getting better at things, but they're all learning something together. So somebody in the landing page feedback page is probably also working on making a better landing page. And so by engaging in conversation around how do I make my landing page better, I'm offering something, I'm learning something, everybody's helping each other, right? And so this I think is just a really, really valuable and powerful example of a community of practice. And I would highly recommend giving them a perusal and just studying it. And of course, all of you qualify as small business owners who are building your thing. Does that like kind of resonate with any of you in terms of like how we approach things? Penny, I know that's what you're building already in terms of what you're doing on Saturdays.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it resonates. And just having people be able to ask other people questions. I mean, that Indie Hackers looks like really a great place to be. There's some other places in my life. I mean, I'm a member of Psychology Today. As a therapist, I have my profile up there, but behind the scenes on Psychology Today, you can have conversations with other therapists about therapy topics, or like, why does nobody ever click on my Psychology Today profile? Does it look like crap or whatever? And I find those things are, I have been stunned in my lifetime at one point I had a new transgender client. I didn't know much about treating transgender individuals yet. So I get on Psychology Today and I'm asking some questions, and you get some person who's treated transgender clients for like 20 years. Like, what are they doing hanging out there? But seriously, oftentimes there are people with such a huge wealth of information, and they are so ready to connect with someone who's really a newbie. And it's just such a valuable way of kind of being in the world. Tony, you're on mute.
That's beautiful. That speaks to, I think, the kind of like tapping into the value that the people in our community have to offer each other, because
Yes.
truly, one of the assets we tend to just not value strongly enough is the fact that we are sitting on top of a community of people who are really quite capable and talented and have a lot of expertise to share in ways that they might not even realize how easy it is for them, and it's so valuable for everybody else. everybody has a piece to the puzzle that just is a game changer for someone else in the room. And the more that we can create room for people to make that known, I think the better. So, to kind of take that to extend that into online community. For example, one of the really great community building constructs that I think is just such a win is asks and offers. Asks and offers is such an easy win for kind of creating this in a community, where you could basically put out a call in your community over Slack or over email or whatever, and just say what do you need help with, or what do you have to offer to the community that you would like everyone to know about. And it could be I really need help with my graphic design, or I am a photographer and I'm offering my services and I want, I'll give a discount to any members, right? And you can make that a simple form, like a Google form that you just aggregate people's responses. But then in a subsequent newsletter, you can aggregate all that and dump it into your newsletter or into a social post, like in your private Facebook group or in your Slack group, to say here's all the asks and offers for the week. And inevitably, the person who needs a logo is going to get contacted by the person who can do a logo. And the person who can offer photography is going to get contacted by somebody who needs their headshot, right? And so that's, a really powerful way of facilitating connection and leveraging the value of the talents and the offerings of the community. Really easy thing to do that achieves some wins.
I think that's a cool thing you're putting together, Tony.
Thanks. I got to figure out how to sell it. But I'm maybe a little bit closer now.
I think a lot of people just want to have it because it says something different than just Zoom. I'm just super excited about it. So I would buy it, but if you ever get done, because it's the way that I'm doing right now with all the learning stuff and the virtual co-working. So the input that you wanted from us was a ton of input for me for the future when you just presented it, because it's stuff that we are all trying to figure out. So I think it will be really valuable for a ton of people.
Well, thanks for that, Sina. I appreciate it. I will definitely keep you all posted on what I have, and I'll probably just share the doc with some of you folks just for feedback, and then give me your notes, and then we'll go from there. But awesome. All right. Anybody have a win for the week or for the weekend?
I'm going to run. I have a 1 o'clock. I'm going to run. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Penny. Take care. For Sina or John, do either of you have just anything fun or happy or joyous to share from over the weekend, or any little wins or happy things to say before we wrap up our meeting?
I went to a wedding and it was really well organized, socially distanced. So I don't have the feeling I'm going to be sick anytime soon. So that was a big win because I was really anxious about that wedding.
Oh my God. Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Congrats.
but they tried to get married twice now in the Bahamas. So that whole thing went by. And so now they got married in Michigan and Ludington, 4 hours away from here. And it's my husband's cousin. So we were we can't say we are not coming, but it was really weird, but hey, they did a great job. So I'm happy, and I'm happy it's over. So it's a big win for me. It's over.
It's over. It's a win-win.
It must feel so nice to have an excuse to dress up and just go out and be out in the world.
It was weird. I put makeup on. I don't know when I did that the last time. I was this is weird. I did my hair. I did everything. It was I don't know. Who is that person in the mirror? Yeah,
that's beautiful.
I know.
That's
it's
awesome.
Weird.
I found these little bottles, water bottles, on a closeout sale. And for less than $1, I've been customizing, well, less than $1 for the bottle and probably another $1 for the labels. So for $2, I've been able to get a custom bottle with our logo and then our podcast studio logo on it. And I've been calling, texting, getting somebody's physical address, and then mailing them one of these with an invite to come in for a tour of the space. And I've been trying to find appropriate contacts as we, hit different niches, because a lot of the people that we're targeting are young entrepreneurs. So we're doing some work for college, doing some video work for college, and trying to hit the different like administrative offices for student employment. People who are younger, entrepreneurial driven, get their contact information, get their contact, and then mail them a gift and with an invite to come in and tour the space. That's actually worked out pretty well. And it's been a very cost-effective way to get our name out, as well as to get people to come in. If they have a real interest, then I take them down and buy them a pizza. And I have signed up 3 $200 a month students in the last week just by promoting the business and inviting them to come in. Oh, you guys have stable internet access. Great. I need more internet with my schoolwork. So it's just been an interesting way to try to target highly specific people and, give them a gift right out of the chute. And it's, less than $5 by the time you mail it. And it's been very, very effective. So.
Wow. Really
That's
great.
pretty good.
I love the idea of just offering up something, being generous and stimulating some conversation, doing things a little different. I'm a fan of physical packages, and people aren't taking advantage of them enough. So,
But John, I hope they're reusable, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a
Okay, good.
water bottle. So, and again, it's one of those things where you look up to have these things printed and done. You got to buy so many 100 of them to get a decent price. I buy these 12 at a time, and they're at Walmart for less than $1. And my sign guy prints these things up, and when I get ready to send out a mailing, I don't do hundreds. I send out 10 highly focused that I've had a chance to kind of pre-sell, so it's not a cold. Where'd this come from? Oh, this is from John. Yeah, I've talked to him. I got his cell phone number. I got all this. So it's more of a step to warming up a cold call, and then by the time you have given them, give them a little love, then they come in. It's amazing. So anyway,
amazing.
Awesome.
Great stuff, John. Congrats on that.
thanks.
Keep us
I've got some
posted
other
on.
stuff to send you, Tony, and I did get that unake thing. I appreciate it, but I'm going to have to bail. So you guys
All
have
right.
a good day. Thank you.
Good to see you,
You
John.
too.
Thanks, Sina. Take care. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.